Okay, it's a YouTube moment. Today, the light is going to rapidly change behind me, I'm sure, and we will see what that does to the picture. I'm still learning. I'm a burgeoning cinematographer. I also want to say, Happy Pride Month. It is June 1st, and I have a slight confession to make. The confession being that I think this is the most visible Pride post that I've ever done. And I don't even have that many subscribers here yet. I don't even know how I feel about that this is the most visible and it's not even going to be super visible. And I don't mean because I want it to be seen by a million people. I think there's a version of me that was probably afraid to make a post like this. And I'm not saying I don't walk through the world without fear, because we still live in a fucked up world. But I didn't want this one to go by without me speaking on it, because I feel like I want to, and I'm ready to, and I have the largest platform I've ever had, and if I can add anything to this conversation that might help one person, I feel like a responsibility to do that. Why haven't I made a more visible Pride post in the past? Is a great question for me to ask myself. I'm 32, and so if you're watching this and you are a young queer kid, wherever you are, know that even though the world is sort of on fire, I hope it's a little easier for you than it was for me. Not the act of coming out necessarily, but just being. I think it took me so long to make this because at 32, I'm still dealing with a lot of stuff from all of this. I even feel like how clumsy it is coming out of my mouth now, because I don't talk about this ever. This being like, hi, I'm Justin Schumann, I'm gay. I don't really have a problem with that, but I definitely think I probably have some internalized shame surrounding it, but not because I chose that. I think it's something that was handed to me maybe when I was much younger. Let me back up a little bit, right? So story time. I came out when I was 14. I had been called gay since I was in 3rd grade. I took dance classes, boys found out, bad news bears for me. But I didn't really know what the word meant or why they were sort of lobbing it in my direction or why it mattered. I just knew it wasn't desirable from the way they were saying it. But I really came out pretty much immediately when I figured out oh no, it's true. And I remember I was in my bedroom of my childhood home. I think I was watching some sort of wedding show on TV. I don't know, TLC or something. I let the thought creep in, this word that I'd heard so many times. And I was like, what if I am? With just a genuine curiosity. And it was it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, oh, okay. And I remember my very first thought was, so I was 14 in 2004 or 5. I remember my first thought was, I'm never gonna get married. I'm never gonna have a wedding. And that made me very sad. And things are different now, which is great. But then, that's what it was. And I did the obligatory bye for a week, which I was in school, and I told my close girlfriends. I never really talked about it with my family though, which is so weird to be making this video because I'm sure my family's gonna watch it and then maybe we're gonna have a conversation about it, but I still at 32 don't really wanna talk about it, which is so odd. But it wasn't because they made me feel uncomfortable at all. I was just so inherently uncomfortable because I didn't see representation anywhere. I don't feel like I had a healthy gay couple modeling what that looked like for me ever in my young life. The one place I had was I went to Stage Door Manor, Performing Arts Training Center. It's a sleepaway camp in upstate New York, theater camp, obviously. I feel well, maybe not obviously, but it's a theater camp. And that was my one place to sort of be. And I will always be so thankful to it for that. But high school, well, 6th, 7th grade weren't, 6th, 7th, 8th grade weren't fun, but high school is not great. And I've spoken about this in earlier videos, but I was bullied. It was just a rough time. I was a skinny little kid. I didn't have an ounce of muscle on me. I was not intimidating to anyone. Not saying I'm terribly intimidating now, but I am more robust as a human than I was then. And I did theater and I was in chorus and I was on the kickline team and all of these things. So really just leaning in. But to my credit, I suppose I didn't not do things that I wanted to do because I was afraid of the perception. But I also think that I'm making this Pride post because I distinctly remember the first time I ever felt really set apart for it. I think it had to be junior year, if I had to guess. I think I was probably 16. And many high schools across this nation, we at Walt Whitman High School did a blood drive. Now, I said I was not an imposing person. I literally couldn't give in prior years because I was too thin. Like I didn't weigh enough for my height, whatever. But this year, I finally did, and I was so excited, and like a lot of kids participated, right? But it meant a lot to me because I'd wanted to participate for years, and I was so jazzed that I finally could. And so you sign up, and they I don't know, like they write you a little slip, and it's during one of your classes, and you get to leave class, and you get to go to the gymnasium and give blood. I remember mine happened to fall I took modern dance in high school, and that's when my time fell, and I was like, it couldn't happen during math class, history, anything else, but okay, fine. I was so excited anyway, I didn't care. So I remember I was like, I'm gonna take my bags just in case like I don't come back before the period's over, whatever. So excitedly, 16-year-old Justin walks down the hallway, goes to the gym, great setup. I mean, very orderly, very structured. And I remember I met with like some sort of like person who like gave me a form and was like, go sit over there and fill in the form. And I was like, okay, so jazzed, so excited. So I sat down and the form was like very, very standard. And only 2 questions like threw me. One being like, did you travel outside the United States in some amount of time? And I was like, oh, I went to London. I hope that's okay. Spoiler alert, it was fine. And then the other question, which genuinely tripped me up for a second, and I could look up this wording, but I'm almost positive because this memory is pretty vivid in my mind still. It was something to the effect of, have you had sexual contact with a man since the year like 1985 or 6, but like it was clear what sort of years they were pointing to. And I was 16, so I was like, I mean, it doesn't say intercourse, so I'm not gonna say no, but like I wanna be honest. So I said yes. And then you took your form and you waited, and then you met with like a nurse, and I was at like a little desk with the nurse. And she's reading over the form, we're making small talk, and she's like, oh, London. And I was like, oh my God, it's be a problem. She just was interested to hear about it. And then she comes to the other question, and she says, is this one true? And she pointed at it and like flipped the form. And I was like, yeah, And she was like, okay. And she starts to write on the top of the paper, and she goes, so that's actually gonna be an immediate postponement. And I said, oh, okay. Till when? Or like, what do you mean? And I can't remember if she said immediate or indefinite. Indefinite, though I don't think she said, because I would have understood that more. I believe it was immediate postponement. And I said, okay, postpone till when? When can I give? And she said, you can't. And I was like, what? And it was for 16-year-old me, I was processing a lot at the moment. And she sort of looked around and she like leaned in all hushed like, and she said, I think it's an absolute travesty and a shame. And she like scrawled a number on a little card, and you should call this number and you should make your voice heard. What? I was 16 years old, make my voice heard? This was all way too much. And I was sort of stunned. I like did not know what to do. And I was like, so I guess I just go back to class? And she was like, mm-hmm. And so I grabbed my bags and I walked back to class. I had left not like 10, 12 minutes earlier. And the girls in my modern class were like, oh, you're back so fast. And I was like, yeah, I had low iron. I couldn't give blood. I like should have known, right? I felt so terrible. And right after dance, I remember I had chorus, which is like the rooms are very near each other. And I walked in the room and I saw my best friend, Samantha. I'm actually going to her wedding in about a week and a half. So June is filled with a lot of happy things. And I like saw her, and I immediately like my face fell, and she was like, what's wrong? And we went outside the chorus room to talk. And I told her, I said, I couldn't give blood. She was like, why? I was like, apparently if you're gay, you can't. Part of me is like, how did I never know? But also then part of me is like, of fucking course I never knew. Like that doesn't make any sense. And I believe it's like fully changed now. I believe I'm like not, I get the New York Times like updates about it because it is obviously breaking news if and when that changes. But I believe the fact that I'm even unsure though is like one speaks a little bit to my lack of participation in politics, government, all that stuff. I'm aware, but it's so fucking heavy these days. But I'm not like inside of it as much as I probably should be, but it's like fucking hard. And so I know things have changed. They took way too long. But I was standing outside the chorus room crying because I told her I felt dirty. And it was the first time I remember ever feeling that. Like siloed for this thing and like really made to feel like lower than low. And I remember saying something to the effect of like, they need blood. Everyone keeps, we need blood, please donate, but not yours. What is it, dirty? You're gonna test all of it anyway. Why? 16-year-old me did not understand. 32-year-old me barely understands. And I remember relaying the story to somebody else at a point, and they were like, oh, you just lie. This is just common knowledge? Like, we're aware that if you're gay, you're just supposed to say no to that question? And then we all just know it's one big, like, charade? I didn't know. So then I never gave again because I was like, well, there's probably some record of it somewhere, which is actually assuming a lot of the fucking bureaucratic organization of anything that has to do with our government or politics here in the US. I probably could have given, but I never did. And so that's like one instance, albeit the earliest, that I can actively remember in this moment of being like discriminated against, but not having somebody to look up to, not having some bodies to look up to, not learning anything in health class, not even having access to television where LGBTQIA+ characters were present or represented in a real form or fashion. I was screwed. I grew up feeling so unsure and unaware, and I didn't know anything, which led to a lot of just stuff and instances and trauma and things that I'm now about to start working on at 32. So that's why I'm making a Pride post, because I suffered for a lot of years, so much so that I even kept quiet into my adult years about being proudly gay. And to be totally honest with you, I'm not even sure I feel proud of it all the time because I'm more afraid than anything ever. And I feel terrible. It's like it would manifest in ways that were so small but really sad. Like my ex was the kind of person who would have like held my hand on the street, or if we were on the subway, like put his hand on my leg or whatever, and I like couldn't do it. I did not enjoy kissing in public, not like full on PDA, but like even a peck. I was so nervous at all times. And he is 5 years my junior. And so I'd like to believe maybe the world was a little different, even with 5 years between us. But I tried to make him understand why I was so like seemingly overreactive to these moments, but I couldn't accurately make him aware of how afraid I was. And it's sad too. And I was a gender studies double major in college, and I love gender representation, and I think people should all be who they feel they want to be. But like not me, I guess. And if anybody in close proximity is exhibiting behavior that I would deem easily targeted, I also have this immediate, safety mechanism that kicks in. I remember I was with my ex again, and he was trying on clothes, and he grabbed a shirt that was like maybe unisex, or maybe it was a women's shirt, and he just put it on and he loved it. And I remember saying like, well, I don't like it. And it wasn't because it didn't look good on him. It's because I was like, if you wear that and I'm with you, I'm afraid for us. It's like, it's just so fucked. Drag queens aren't dangerous. Gay people's blood is not dirty. Gay couples, queer couples are not an abomination. If anything, probably on the whole better communicators than some heterosexual couples, which is not straight men's fault. They've been fucked as well with a hegemonically white society that taught them they're not supposed to feel their feelings out loud, otherwise they might be considered feminine or gay, right? We've even made them afraid of being misconstrued, possibly, of being this thing. So it's Pride Month, it's June 1st. I am happy to be making this video, and I'm also scared still. I don't know why, I'm not sure I can articulate that in this moment, but it's just been too long. If you stumbled upon this video and you're a young queer kid, and I don't know how you found this video, maybe you follow me on TikTok, maybe you just searched on YouTube, like, what if I'm gay? Or what would that mean? Pride Month 2023, I don't know. And you found this video, one, please know you have a friend, a person in me. Feel free to comment, feel free to message if you don't want to comment publicly, but if I knew that even one of you kids watched this video and it meant a difference to you, then it was worth it for me to make it. I also am the person who talks about social media being this exposure therapy of sorts, doing the thing that's scary, like revealing yourself publicly and learning about yourself in the process. And I didn't know where I was going with this video. I knew I wanted to talk about the blood drive, I knew I wanted to make this about Pride Month, but I didn't know how I was gonna get there. And I did my best. I'm not sure this is the most entertaining video I've ever made, but I also don't think that was the point of it. It's so hard to live a life where you feel like you always have to look over your shoulder. And this country is so fucked. I mean, I feel like everybody feels that way to a degree, but even in New York City, I'm always hyper aware, and it's exhausting, and it's sad. and it has limited me and I think reduced me at times and stunted my growth in certain ways. But it's a part of my identity, and I'm dead set on working through the shit and dissecting it and understanding it a bit more so that I can move forward with less baggage, because I don't want to be alone forever. And I'd like kids, like I'd like a family, and it feels like it's gonna be 2024 next year. I feel like I'm allowed to want that and have that. I don't know what I'm gonna do the rest of Pride Month. And I'm not sure if you're even aware or acknowledging it or celebrating. But if you happen to find this video and you needed this video, then I'm glad it was here for you. If you watched this whole video and this doesn't necessarily apply to you, but you still felt touched by it, then be a good ally. Let some queer person in your life know that you are there for them. And if you watch this whole video and you manage to stay to the end just because you think this is disgusting, although I'd be shocked if you stayed to the end, although like actually not, people are absolutely out of their mind these days. Well, you know what? I wish for you understanding. I wish for you clarity, and I wish for some sort of lightning bolt to grant you not even kindness, but neutrality, ambivalence. We're not hurting anyone, especially not drag queens. Guns hurt people. Wars hurt people. Gay people, we're like in danger of making someone more fabulous, which is reductive, but you understand what I'm saying. I think this video was a little for me too, and I think this video was a lot for me. For real, if I'm being honest. So happy Pride. And however you spend it, you are important, you're enough, and you've got me. And I hope to see you around.